Greetings. This session is about ethical decision-making in organization, and it is presented by Mary Lou Addor with Extension Organizational Development. Myth or fact? Ethics is simply doing what is right. Is ethics more than doing good? Is it more than not lying or not stealing? Ethics is really coming to know what is right or wrong in a workplace and doing what is right, though it's not always obvious given ethical mazes or what we refer to as ethical dilemmas, and we'll talk more about that as we go along in our session. What is ethical behavior? One way to think about ethical behavior is that it is about acting responsibly in a difficult or complex situation with quality, character, and judgment. Yet what guides our behavior? What are some type of rules we might use? So let's take a look at some examples of that. Some people say we can use values to guide our behavior, but what is a value? A value is often thought of what's important to us. It can be considered a guiding principle or a belief. It's how we might live our life. It's a tool to live our life. It informs our ethics. And so you can see before you the pillars of character: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, caring, justice and fairness, and civic virtue. And then there's a list of different kinds of values that make up those pillars of character, from kindness, sharing, dignity, courtesy, law-abiding, community service, honesty, and so on. There's quite a list there of the different kinds of values. So values are a tightly held belief upon which a person acts by choice. They're an endearing belief that one way of behaving is personally or sociably preferably to an opposing way of behaving. So let's think about that. Does an organization have value? What are the values of North Carolina Cooperative Extension? North Carolina Cooperative Extension does have values. The values of North Carolina Cooperative Extension, there are 5 of them: empowering people, providing solutions, powerful impacts, lifelong learning, and partnership power. Empowering people. For empowering people, Extension professionals value diversity, accessibility, and personal development. Extension is committed to helping people reach their full potential. Providing solution. Extension provides unbiased, practical, research-based technical assistance and programs that address today's needs. Powerful impacts. Extension's relevant, responsive, and accessible programs measurably improve the lives, land, and economy of North Carolina. Lifelong learning. Extension values personal development in its staff, its volunteers, and the people it serves. Extension offers local educational programs for easy access. Partnership power. Extension partnerships with federal, state, and our county governments and other groups, extending the reach and depth of its programs. Its diverse partnerships reflect the communities that Extension proudly serves. So another way to think perhaps maybe a little bit more about ethics is something about policies, because at some point every policy was a value. Consider Fair Labor Standard Acts, FLSA. Or let's think about child labor laws. They also came from a point of a value. And then think about, at some point, miscegenation. The term miscegenation has been used since the 19th century to refer to interracial marriage and interracial sex, and more generally to the process of racial admixture which has taken place since ancient history. Historically, the term has been used in the context of laws banning interracial marriage, known as anti-miscegenation laws. The term entered historical records during European colonization and the Age of Discovery, but societies such as China and Japan have also restrictions on marrying with people whom they consider to be of a different race. So we do have policies that are out there that we must adhere to that do guide our behavior. So there are some current policies that we have that we must adhere to, which are conflict of interest. There are policies around the use of state resources. There are certainly policies around respect in the workplace, around respect of diversity, and certainly around integrity of policies and processes. There are also some codes of conduct, certainly around dress, policies around the use of illegal substances, insubordination, certainly being reliable and prompt, policies around confidentiality with certain topics, with certain information. There are policies around gifts. There are policies around no self-dealing. There are policies around no discrimination. And there are policies around no use of state property for personal use. So conflict of interest. Let's talk about a conflict of interest, what that is. A conflict of interest is any situation where an individual or entity, private or governmental, is in a position to exploit a professional or official capacity role in some way for their personal benefit or for that entity or the perception of such. Conflict of interest equals conflict of roles. Professional judgment concerning a primary interest may be influenced by a secondary interest. So conflict of interest in ethics. Taxpayers, the public media, expect an honest, impartial government and a general duty of government officials and employees to act out of loyalty, honesty, independence, impartiality, and integrity. The public has a right to have its officials, employees perform their duties free from improper influences, corruption, bribes, fraud, use of property for personal gain, deceit, self-enrichment, self-dealing, conflict of interest, including outside employment. So another policy is put here by the Board of Governors, policy with NC State 01.2501. And 1.2, the Board of Governors policy states that the primary responsibility of faculty and non-faculty EPA employees are teaching, scholarly research and publication, and professional service to the institution. The policy also recognizes the importance of application of knowledge outside the institution and that this function may be enhanced by appropriate relationships between employees and private entities. Because that is the case, external professional pay has certain policies that govern those kinds of activities. NC State employees are encouraged to engage in financial and professional rewarding external activities with the condition that conflicts or potential conflicts of interest and commitment be avoided, resolved, or managed in a manner that ensures objectivity and meets the institution's responsibilities to external funding agencies and to the state of North Carolina. The process for which those responsibilities are met is by filing a notice of intent and a conflict of interest disclosure. Every employee who does external professional pay is required to do this. Here's what ethics are not: forcing one's personal values upon others, rationalizing improper behavior by attributing it to culture, ethnicity, or heritage, the choice between right versus wrong. Ethical dilemma. An ethical dilemma is a situation which there is not one answer or choice that is clearly right, a right or wrong who decide what factors need to be considered. Ethical dilemmas are tough. Sometimes there could be a right answer, sometimes there could be a wrong answer. It's not always that clear. Characteristics of ethical dilemmas are that significant values conflict among different interests, real alternatives that are equally justifiable, there are significant consequences on stakeholders in the situation, and an ethical dilemma exists when one is faced with having to make a choice among those alternatives. Making the choice. So we've already examined some tools that we can use to make choices amongst our ethics. And some of those that we have looked at have been regarding values, the laws, personal ethics, our policies, our code of conduct. So let's look at a more formal decision-making tool. So a couple of these would be the newspaper test. And the newspaper test says, would you want to wake up in the morning and see your name on the front page of the newspaper? Another one would be, could I tell this to my spouse, parent, and child and feel good about it? So this is called the significant person test. Then another one is the golden rule. Would I want this done unto me, and would I be doing the same unto others? Then lastly, there's a 12-question method. How confident am I in my analysis? And so let's take a look at the 12 question methods. So here are the 12 ethical questions that can lead you through making a decision about perhaps an ethical question that you have or an ethical dilemma. And the questions are as follows. Have you defined a problem accurately? How would you define the problem differently if you stood on the other side of the fence or that particular issue? How did this situation occur in the first place? To whom and to what do you give your loyalty as a person and a member of the organization? What is your intention in making this decision? How does this intention compare with the probable results? Who could your decision or action injure? Could you discuss the problem with the affected parties before you make your decision? Are you confident your position will be as valid over the long term of time as it is now? Could you disclose without qualm your decision or action to your boss, the chancellor, the public? What is the symbolic potential of your action if it's understood, if it's misunderstood? Under what conditions will you allow exceptions to your stand?